So in the wintertime, you gotta find what they're eating. Thick, fat, just out here eating like crazy. So whenever I'm trying to find the shad in the wintertime, I've got a quick tip for you that's gonna save you a lot of time and help you find a lot more bait and a lot more bass. So he is showing off for us. Got him. Look at all his buddies with him. I mean, whenever it comes to wintertime fishing, just looking for shad is the key. You know, if you find what they're eating, you're gonna find the fish. So just always remember that this time of year. You've gotta be around the bait. Look at it all spewing out of you. See all that shad? I mean, just going down there, eating like crazy. Big, pretty smallmouth. So in the wintertime, it's all about bait fish. So when it comes to looking for bait fish, that can be a really, really tricky thing to do. You know, but whenever, you know, on a highland reservoir, I like to start looking in like long pockets, creeks. So I use my Garmin maps to really kind of pinpoint where I think these fish are gonna be. You know, a lot of times I'm looking for these swings. You know, I'm looking where the channel swings against the bank, or where it, you know, goes from being, say, out here in 100 feet to right here, you see it shallow and shallow and getting up into the 80 feet. And by the end of the day, you're gonna kind of figure out how deep they are. You know, maybe they're up here in this 55, but it's gonna take forever if you just try to scan all these creeks. You know, if you shut down and just go really slow scanning the whole thing, it's gonna take all day. I'm gonna show you a little trick that's gonna help save you some time, and it's gonna help you catch more bass. We're gonna put this thing on pad, and we're gonna use our 2D sonar to try to find some bait. You can see we're traveling right up the middle of this creek ditch. We're trying to follow that ditch like a highway. There's our first big ball of shad right there. It doesn't look like anything, but if we stop and turn around, it could be a huge ball. Boy, look at that, there's another big ball. Landed right on another one. You can tell, like these shad right here, we were running, so it just makes a really quick blip. So if you're not paying attention, you know, you might think, oh, that's not that much shad. But over here, this is whenever we're running, you know, 25, 30 miles an hour. This is when we slow down and we start to actually idle over them. You know, they're really starting to pop, and you're seeing how big the shad schools really are. Those little arches are actually fish mixed in the bait. We got a small little wolf pack right here just going crazy on this shad in front of us on this small ball. Here we go, we're flying down to them, and it's looking like it's bad news bears to be my bait. Got him. Spotted bass. Never know what you're gonna hook out here. Here they come. Got him. I mean, they pull so hard. Spinning rod, light line. Golly, hard to beat. Smallmouth. Come here, buddy. Big fat wintertime smallmouth. Golly, how do you beat it? So whenever you get around to school like that, the best thing I can tell you to do is just, you know, you've got to get back in there as fast as possible. The longer you can keep those fish excited, you know, the more chance you've got of just catching more and more and more of them. That's why this is something really, really fun to do with a friend. You know, if you've got two guys up here dropping two lines at once, holy cow, it can get crazy. All right, here we go. Here's our bait right here falling down to them. We'll see if we get their attention. I'm kind of off of them a little bit. Oh, they spotted it though. Here he comes. Here comes a buddy from down low. Got him. Yeah, 4 casts, 4 bass. This one's not as big, but man, they're so healthy. I mean, they're super, super thick, big old fat bellies on them. It's just too fun. There's a little bit of shad right here and they're eating the heck out of it. But once you get around them, I mean, it don't matter if there's shad or not. You're in an area where there is aggressive feeding fish. You know, it's okay to throw at the fish that are not eating the shad. Like right here, here's a bunch that are just swimming to the shad. Here we go down to a few. We've got lunch hand delivered. Boy, look at these. I mean, a bunch of them coming underneath the boat. There we go. They're starting to see it. There they are. Another little spotted bass. We'll keep them going while they're hot. There's a bunch of them. Right now, there's so many of them down there and they're so excited. You're not having to do a lot. I just kind of feel the fish out, you know. Sometimes I'll just let it sit there, and other times I'll just slowly reel it. I don't really let them just sit there and stare at it a lot of times. A lot of times I start moving it away from them a little bit. Oh, there's our high ones again. I'll catch one of those high ones on an 1/8 ounce just for fun. They're lower than I want them to be, but they're high enough they're going to see it. Got him. Look how green that largemouth is. Little guy, but boy, he's pretty. You know, so these few fish I saw here, they were swimming really, really high in the water column. So I swapped to an 1/8 ounce sleekhead. What you see me throwing a lot of the time is a moon eye, and a lot of times I'm throwing them in anywhere from a 1/4 all the way to an ounce. This little guy has got a batted bone hook. It's called a sleek jig. They make these all the way to 1/2 ounce, but the hook gets a lot bigger. So I really like the 1/8s and the 1/4s for these small baits, and you know, throwing at these high ones. You know, on my Garmin, you see I use this blue screen, and I used to always use amber, I mean, for the longest time. I got on this blue screen, I was having trouble seeing my screen in the sunlight. It seems like since I've swapped to this blue, I don't have that trouble anymore. I can see everything just so much cleaner. Whenever you start catching them, it's really easy to lose them, because they just go crazy. Like, they'll just start eating shad and just swimming like crazy. But you know, we've been really fortunate to stay on this school as long as we have. But there's just so many of them, they're not really going anywhere. A lot of times you might get 1, 2, 3 out of a school, and then they're going to swim on, and you've got to go find some more. So when you find the bass like we did today, you know, it's time to go ahead and get out the Damiki. That's what I love to start targeting them with first. I started off with a 3/4 ounce head. This is a 3/4 ounce moon eye. It's just got a little Z2 on it, but you can use anything, any kind of shad style bait. You know, I'm going to change that depending on how deep they are, but today, you know, they were anywhere from 30 to 50 feet, so that 3/4 was really good. It got to them really, really fast, and it was working, so it's one of those deals. If it's working, no need to change it. And if they get deeper, I'll go all the way up to a 1 ounce, or if they get shallower, like today, I saw a few that were, you know, floating really high in the water column, even though they were over really, really deep water. And I went ahead and picked up a lighter head. I did change heads because I kind of like a little bit longer shanked hook whenever I'm throwing to those real shallow ones. This is an 1/8 ounce sleek head. That's what I like to pick up whenever they get really, really shallow in the water column. It seems like you can really just float that bait over them, and man, they just can't stand it. And this one, it's just got a little Damiki style bait on it as well. I think it's like a 2.5 incher. I don't think the baits are just super important. I think you can throw any kind of shad style baits you want, but the heads are very important. You need to have a good head. It's got a good light wire hook, and it has to be the right weight. You need to really play with that and make sure you get your weights right. So my Damiki setup, I keep it simple. This is Johnny Moore's Platinum rod. It's a 6'9" medium. I like a pretty soft rod. I like that extra tip just to be able to really, really fight them good and not tear that hook out of their mouth. When it comes to line, I'm using a new braid called Sunline Overwatch, and man, it comes off the reel really smooth and really fast. It just seems like it helps my bait get down there, and it's got a really small diameter. And then whenever it comes to my fluorocarbon leader, I've got the Sunline V Hard in 2.5, which is equivalent to about a 9-pound test. So we're kind of getting close to our next spot now. We're pulling into this next creek, and right now is where I would usually start to look, but we're in about 100 feet. But based off what we just saw over there, all those shad were like 50 to 30 feet deep. So I'm just gonna go ahead and save a little time, run a little farther to the back and see if they're back there. Those are what we're looking for. Looks like they're loaded, big wad of them. So now, of course I can see fish on my 2D. I would just rather get up and use my LiveScope. Now that I know I'm around them, I'm gonna check them out. So right now, we've got a really big school of shad here, and there's lots of singles and doubles and smaller groups of bass. So a lot of times I'll kind of keep going, and skip those singles and doubles sometimes to look for, oh man, look at this, to find something like that. There is an absolute giant wad of them right there. Here we go, we're falling. I'm kind of falling behind them, but I think there's so many trailing that we can get one of the ones in the back there. There's one. Feels like a good one there. He's gonna jump on the other side of the boat, really. Crazy thing. Man. Oh yeah. Look at that one. Look at that move down the hatch. Man, what a pretty largemouth, golly. It's just hard to beat fishing this time of year, man. We got beautiful weather, big bass, hard to beat. Yeah, so the biggest deal, about catching fish like this is just being able to find the shad first and foremost. A lot of times where I start to look is I like to start looking, somewhere confined as like, a pocket, long pocket off the main lake, or a big creek or something like that. Something that these shad are gonna kind of migrate into as the water cools. And whenever they start to go back out, they're gonna group up. This cold weather really groups the shad up. And man, when that starts to happen is when you start seeing these huge schools of bass like this. So, and as soon as I see that little bloop of shad, I'm gonna shut it down and I'm gonna start looking around with my LiveScope. And man, as soon as you find them, they're ready to bite, and you can see. When you're looking for them, it feels like you're wasting your time because you can go forever, and not see any. But whenever you finally see them, it's gonna make your time worth it. It's gonna make every second you spent sitting behind that driver's seat worth it. It's gonna pay off, and you're gonna be able to just load the boat with them.